So a couple days ago, The Atlantic reported, and The Atlantic is never the best source, we'll say, for news or for accurate opinions on things. The Atlantic is not the breaking news site, anyways. They're going to be the opinion setter. They're going to be the framer. They want to be the here's how you should look at an option thing. They want to be the guy who says, look at our opinion and take it for your own. Really. And you'll see The Atlantic published an article about QAnon. I did a video about this, and it goes through great lengths, 5.5 paragraphs before it gets to anything actually related to Q. And it basically disparages the entire movement, and it says anything that anyone says who also follows QAnon is then projecting what QAnon is about. So they said, if you were a QAnon supporter and you trash your family, then all QAnon means that you're anti-family. Stupid stuff like that. Bad example, but really dumb. Transitive property movements. They would say, if a QAnon supporter also believed that the moon was flat and made of cheese, well, then all of QAnon believes the moon is flat and made of cheese. So, the Parmesan heads out there are going to get upset if you call them out. And that's kind of what the Atlantic is going to do. They're going to take something and they're going to put their little spin on it, just like every news site does. But the way they do it is a little bit more artful. You'll see here, you probably already saw this. This is from 2 days ago. They said that Trump had said that American veterans who had died in war, casualties of war, KIA, are losers and suckers. And I know, because when I heard this, I said, those they know the language they're picking now. They're being very tactful by saying losers and suckers. It's like they went into the way back machine to 2007 or 2006, and they looked, or 2012. I don't know exactly when Twitter was created. I'm gonna say, look at 2011, look at 2012, look at 2013, and look at Donald Trump's tweets. He called a lot of people losers. He said a lot of people were suckers. He never said this about veterans. Not once. And there are many, many videos that will show you in real time how Donald Trump treats veterans, but because that's not new to you, and because that's not original, and because that's not something that I just want to rip off and then treat to the channel, instead I'll show you, look, here are the top stories all slamming Trump. Here's the impetus of this, which is the Atlantic article 2 days ago saying Trump, from an anonymous source, who got this information from an anonymous source. So anonymous to the anonymous source. Double anonymous. Come on. That's got to be some kind of subliminal messaging, right? If in the article they say an anonymous source told an anonymous source, that's poking the bear. Because the people who are aware, the inside, you and me, and a couple of other people on this channel, we're aware of what anonymous really is. So if someone says this is an anonymous source from an anonymous source, that's really them just poking at Trump going, it's us. And that's even worse. So they say Donald Trump said in 2018 that he wouldn't go to Arlington, a place that, by the way, and you can go back and look at the channel. I hope you would. If you're seeing this part of the video, go back and look at my channel, because around Memorial Day weekend, or maybe you could look at uploads the week after Memorial Day weekend, my fiance and I were one-wheeling around all DC. We did the DC trip. We did all the monuments, and I uploaded footage from Arlington. And it's impressive. Not the footage, but the cemetery. The remembrance. And Donald Trump is aware of this. He would have never, I'd bet my nuts on this, he would have never said the people buried in Arlington are losers and suckers. And if we get a video saying Donald Trump, it shows him saying, I don't want to go to Arlington. The people who there are losers and suckers. Then I will eat my hat. And I guess I should lose my balls, right? But the reality is he didn't say that. We are in no risk of either of those two things happening because he didn't say it. And now, feast your eyes. I know I've waited and baited you long enough. And I don't mean to do that, by the way. It's just that I have some things I want to say. Now I'll read you a letter. And I'm not going to editorialize this. I will just read to you the letter. So if you want to know my proof, this man's proof. And I'll tell you this got me emotional earlier. I was one other beer earlier in to the evening. So cheers. And was reading this and was just overcome. Really. I got emotional because you'll see this. And I won't editorialize it on the way through. I'm just going to get through the letter. So bear with me because it is a little lengthy. It'll take you about 5 minutes to listen to. But it'll be worth it. And you need to hear this. So I'm going to finish this. Cheers. And then from NBC News, this is from the opinion section. This says, Trump came to Dover after my wife was killed fighting ISIS. He absolutely respects our service. Down the hatch. Okay. I never met a president before Donald Trump. His empathy and thoughtfulness on one of the worst days of my life won my gratitude. This is published September 5th at 5:18 p.m. This says, hey, this is by Joe Kent, by the way. The backstory is Kent family, Joe and Shannon, have 2 young children. They both are in the armed forces, both at high levels. And while Joe is a little bit more senior, Shannon was serving, fighting ISIS, and lost her life. And so this picks up. Quote, hey Joe, a quiet but familiar voice said to me from the doorway of a small room with plush furniture. The room was meant to provide as much comfort as possible for the families of military members on the worst day of their life. The day that remains of their loved ones are returned to them at Dover Air Force Base. I had been alone in the room for only a few minutes and was exhausted but restless. The previous 3 days felt like 3 years and 3 minutes all at once, because so much had been taken from my family so quickly and irrevocably that I felt like I was back at war and had just gotten attacked. But unlike in war, I couldn't fight back. The voice from the doorway, though, was familiar because it belonged to a man I had seen on television countless times. It was President Donald Trump. And as he approached me, he extended his right hand to shake mine. He placed his left hand on my shoulder. He looked me in the eyes and he said, quote, I'm so sorry for your loss. Shannon was an amazing woman and warrior, unquote. I still have no idea what exactly I said in response. The days after my wife, Shannon Kent, was killed by a suicide bomber during a mission to fight ISIS in Syria in January 2019. It had been such a blur, and anyway, I'd never met a president before. But, I'm told, I thanked President Trump, and I remember he held eye contact with me, and in his eyes I could see, unmistakably, the same pain I'd seen in the eyes of other leaders who would ultimately bear the responsibility for sending men and women to their deaths in combat. As we unclasped our hands, the president said to me, quote, "Shannon was the real deal. We are lucky to have people like her willing to go out there and face evil for us." Unquote. And he kept his arm on my shoulder. Today we waited for the plane, and together, as we waited for the plane, that would bring Shannon home, we spent another 20 minutes talking about my wife, our children, and what an amazing mother, wife, and soldier she was. And it was clear to me that Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, truly cared. Not just that Shannon and the 3 others had been killed in Syria, but about who Shannon and those 3 other people were as people. Then the president did something that I did not expect. He asked me what I thought about Syria and what we were doing there. He talked to me, a Green Beret and a combat veteran, not some expert at the Pentagon or a think tank in California, about the wisdom. About the wisdom leaving troops in harm's way. I think they mean about. About the wisdom of leaving troops in harm's way once ISIS territorial caliphate has been destroyed. It was clear to me that he was deeply conflicted about whether staying in Syria was worth the lives lost. Shannon and her 3 colleagues on that day in January. So, nope, I'll wait. Following that hard day in Dover, when Trump was with my family and Shannon came home, I attended another event with President Trump and was able to, perhaps more clearly, talk with members of his staff and family about foreign policy and Gold Star family issues, such as the Casualty Assistance Officer Program and changing Defense Department regulations in Shannon's honor. So when I read the anonymous allegations this week that President Trump spoke disparagingly of the troops, I knew they weren't true or were taken completely out of context in order to hurt him before the election. President Trump's actions have shown our troops more respect than any president in my lifetime. His use of decisive military force only when absolutely necessary, combined with the reluctance to use the military as the sole tool of foreign policy, is not only good and smart, but the sign of utmost respect for the lives of the troops. And since 9/11, America's all-volunteer force has served under 2 presidents who were quick to ceremoniously praise our sacrifices without taking any real action to change the grinding status quo that had become the hallmark of the global war on terror, quote unquote. Instead of asking hard questions about what we were gaining and could we ever gain and taking action based on those answers, Trump's predecessors fought wars with our troops in an effort to build new governments in Afghanistan and Iraq, while letting the perpetrator of the terrorist attacks escape in Pakistan, while the government continued to support them. Former President Obama may have offered eloquent rhetoric, but very little changed during his tenure from his predecessor, except that he also got us involved in the conflict in Syria. Well, thank you, BHO. Previous presidents' support of endless wars has resulted in the loss of thousands of American lives and the cost of American taxpayers trillions of dollars, whereas President Trump's limited use of military force and swift action when needed marks a decisive change from that policy. Look no further than what happened to Qasem Soleimani, When Soleimani ordered an attack that killed an American in late 2019, President Trump immediately ordered a strike that killed him. And the president has avoided getting us into any new wars, something that his recent predecessors seemingly could not avoid or didn't resist. He finishes, as both a veteran of our nation's wars, a Gold Star spouse, I find that platitudes about respect for our nation's troops from leaders without strategy to keep us from getting into pointless and unwinnable wars are the highest form of disrespect. Our troops and our nations deserve a president who has our best interests in mind, not just meaningless platitudes about our service meant to paint a rosy picture of war and destruction. America and the men and women in uniform need a president who will ask the hard questions about why we are fighting and dying, and yes, whether it was or will be worth it. And then will do his utmost to protect America, our troops, its military, and its standing as the greatest fighting force this world has ever seen. Bravo. Right? Bravo. Bravo, Joe. This is the Joe I can get behind. Here we go, Joe. That's what I was dying for. Joe Kent writes this. And that's Joe and that's Shannon. Right there. Cheers. That's heavy. I know that's Miller Lite, but this is a heavy story. Like the video, if you would, because that helps boost the video to be seen by more people. If you don't like it, then people don't see it. If people don't see it, we can't grow. Comment below, because that just tells me how you feel about this. I will see every single one of them. Comment on the video. I'll look at them all. I would pray that I would get to the point where I'd see 1,000 comments. I'd look at every single one, believe me. It'd be the hardest day of my life. Share the video. I've said MySpace. I've said Pottery Barn. Those are all jokes. Go to the veterans communities. People who are watching this that are on Facebook, drop this link into a veteran community page, because you never know who might see it and say, oh, wow, yeah, okay. And then subscribe to this channel yourself if you haven't already. 50 to 80%, depends on the video, depends on the week. Most people who watch the video don't even subscribe, which is weird considering, that I have more subscribers than I do viewers. So help me grow, please. Keep on doing what you're doing. Subscribe to the channel though, like I said, and then do whatever else you can do to keep America afloat.